in math. All right. So coordinate plane, Miss Sawyer just passed out some of these graphs. You are going to,
everybody needs two, so you should have a sheet at your table with two, but we're actually going to glue them in separately. So if you want to, you can fold and rip or cut. You're going to glue them in separately.
so you need both of them, but we'll glue one in right here at the top, and then the other one we're just going to put aside for a moment.
Remember, there might not be 4 glue sticks at a table, so share around if you need to.
So glue that first one in. Maybe leave a line of a space. A line of a space. A space of a line? Leave a... I don't know words. Leave a line there to give you some space. Okay, remember when you glue, it's always nice to actually glue the piece of paper you're gluing in, the actual sheet, and then glue that onto your paper. Gluing in your notebook gets really, really messy, so you want to make sure you glue that sheet and then put that in. Those ones do work. Old school, from the 50s. Alright, while you're in your bins, you can grab highlighters as well. We're going to use lots of highlighters today, so just grab all the highlighters. Just put them on top, share them around. So once you get that glued in, grab some highlighters from your bin. We're just gluing the first one, so leave the other one off to the side, not right now. Remember, you don't have to douse the whole paper in glue. If you do, that's okay. You just don't have to. Miss Sawyer does, but I just outline and do my X, and it seems to work. Alright, so I'll give you about 40 more seconds to get that glued in and then get some highlighters out. If you want to use colored pencils, you can, but I'm going to use highlighters. It's up to you.
If anyone feels satisfied enough at their table, I can find you some more. If you have your own highlighters, that's great.
Alright, we're going to use a couple colors of highlighters, so you might need to share at your table, so you could just put them on top of your bin and then people just grab them as they need them. Or if you just want to grab 2 for yourself, grab 2. If you don't have highlighters, let us know. Get started in about 10 more seconds. Alright, so this is a coordinate plane. What else might we call this? A graph. That's kind of like the non-academic term for it, because when we talk about graph, we want to talk about that as a verb. But if we look at it as a noun, I don't know. It kind of works, kind of doesn't work. We want to talk about this as a coordinate plane. Okay? So coordinate plane, that prefix co. What does that prefix co mean? We talked about it with coefficient.
What is your co-worker? You work
Partner. Yeah. Okay, I didn't really hear you. Sorry. My ears are plugged because I'm sick, so you have to make sure you're talking loud. Okay, partner, you work together. So coordinate plane is 2 things working together. What are the 2 main components? What are the 2 big things you see on your graph? Good. The x-axis and the y-axis. I'm going to highlight one of them in orange. So if you'd like to highlight in orange, you can, or highlight with your own color. I'm going to do that one first. What is this one called? The horizontal line. That's our x-axis. So our x-axis is horizontal. It goes side to side. Okay, and it's really a number line. So what number is in the middle of my number line in this case? 0. And then when we count our numbers, we're going to make sure that we're counting on the lines. So the next line is line number 1, 2, 3, 4. When we label those, we want to try and write them small. We want to write next to that, right underneath. We don't want to jump a line and put it next. So it's really a number line. To the right of 0 is the positives. What goes to the left of 0? Negatives. And we're going to start at that 0 and then start jumping. So left of 0 is -1, then -2, -3, -4, -5, -6. Alright, so we said it was coordinate, meaning it's together. What is that x-axis together with? The y-axis. So grab a different color highlighter. I'm going to use pink because pink and orange are easy to tell the difference for me. And that is our y-axis. Why are you smelling at me like that? I just really like you. Okay. Alright, we're also going to label that y-axis. I always label on the right side of that line, just right next to it. Some people do left. I don't know. You do you. Okay, where are the positives going to go on that y-axis? Above. On the up. Do they go up or down for up? So from that 0, I'm going to go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. When you label, remember we're labeling on the line. So it's not going in the box, it's actually on the line. We're looking at that tick mark. Okay? And what goes below 0 then? -1. So the one right underneath is -1, -2, -3.
Notice how Ms. Brown's writing that right on the line. It's actually the line we're counting.
Okay, so let's make a couple of our vocabulary notes. Okay, so first off, let's talk about that coordinate. Coordinate. That co is that part that's really important. Okay. What's a co? Or what is coordinate? Together. And what two parts are we putting together? The x and y. So we have an x and y together. There is one spot of our coordinate plane where that x and y overlap, where they have that same number in common. What number do they both have where they connect? 0. They intersect at 0. Does anyone remember, what do we call that special point right at that middle?
It has a special name for that 0, 0 point where they cross. Good.
Did they say it?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Origin. And origin is that point where they are both 0. We call that 0, 0.
So if you want to kind of write a note to self, if you know this word origin, great. If you're one of the people who shouted that out. If you don't, if this is new for you, you might want to write a little note to yourself, like middle or x and y cross or something like that. So remind yourself what that origin is.
If you want to grab another highlighter, you could. So speaking of that origin, I put it as 0, 0. I maybe should have done something first, but I didn't. Whoops. We have an ordered pair. An ordered pair tells us an exact location on that coordinate plane. So it tells us where it's going to be located on that coordinate plane. So it has to give us two numbers. And one of the numbers has to be what? One has to be the x, and the other one has to be the y. So it's a location, and we write it as an ordered pair with parentheses. Does anyone remember which one comes first? X, and then y. Okay, I'm going to color code that with the same colors I used on my x and y axis. So I used orange for my x, so I'm going to use orange for my x here. And then my y, I used pink on that y-axis, so I'm going to use pink for my y.
Match up whatever colors you use for your X and your
So that first number x, if it's a direction, it's giving me directions of how to find that point. Is x going to tell me to go left, up, down, right? Left and right is that x. So left and right for x. And that y is going to tell me up and down. And how do I know when it's going to go right versus left? Close. Yeah, right is a positive. Left would be negative. What about for y? Which one would be positive? Up. Yep. Positive is up. Negative is down. Good. All right, last thing we're going to do before we glue in that next one is we're going to label our quadrants. What does that prefix quad mean? 4. Good. Yeah, your quadriceps, you have 4 big muscle groups there. That's why it's called the quadricep. Or if you're driving a quad, sometimes that's what they call four-wheelers now. I think it's silly, but I guess. Or quadrilateral. Okay, so we're going to do Q for quadrants. Okay, and each of these quadrants have a number. And the quadrants are the 4 parts that this is broken up into. Okay, we actually start in this positive quadrant because it's positives and positives. So this is Q1. This whole kind of shaded, this area that's created there. Q1, quadrant 1. For quadrant 2, we then go counterclockwise, or we make a C, kind of like for coordinate planes. So our quadrant 2 is across. So that's any point in this kind of square area. Then we move down for quadrant. And then our last one is quadrant 4. If you want to kind of show an arrow, that means quadrant 4. If you want to write out that word, and if you look at this later and you're like, Q, question 4, how is there a question there? This Q4 meant quadrant 4. Why do we spell quadrant with a Q? I don't know, man. No. Do you? Yeah, but why does quad start with a Q? Qua, like a K. Should be KW. Quadrant. Q is just a silly word. Not word. Q is a silly letter. Yeah, it's not a word. My bad. English. Today's a tough day for me. Alright, what we're going to do next is we are going to take your second graph that you have, And you're going to glue it in. If you have space on this page, try and get that in. If not, you'll have to go to the next page. And we're going to make sure when you glue it this time, we're going to glue it off to the side because we're going to write some next to it. So when you glue in that next one, glue it off to the side because we're going to be writing in some stuff next to it. If it doesn't fit on your paper, that page, you'll just have to go to the next page. That's okay. Just off to the side on one side. Right.
If that works for your brain, then you're going to write on the other side. So off to one side so you can write next to it.
All right, and then we're going to take time to relabel that. So I'm going to use my highlighters again. I'm going to use the same colors I've been using.
So we're going to label our X and our Y. So look back at how you labeled the top graph. Use your colors. Label your X and your Y.
So I'm using the same colors I used in my last one. Alright, and then I'm going to write in the X and the Y just next to them. I'm not going to write out the whole X axis, Y axis. I'm just going to write that this is my X and this is my Y. Sometimes my Y's look like X's. I have to add that little tail on. Okay, and then we are going to label with numbers again. So this is another good practice to label your numbers. At that middle is 0. And then I personally always start counting to the right from that 0. So I start counting 1, 2. Okay, whenever I start at the origin point. So if you think of like where did a word or a phrase originate from, you're looking at where did it start from. So our origin here is where we want to start from every time. So now from 0, I can either go up, left, or down. It's up to you. Some people like to do their x-axis first. I like to just do all my positives right away, so I like to go up next. Okay. Now when I go the other direction, when I go left or when I go down, those are going to be negatives. And same thing as we work our way down, we're going to start with -1. Alright, we're going to practice plotting some points. Now when we plot a point, even though we're given 2 directions, those 2 directions result in how many points?
4. Remember that
1. Sorry.
We say they're together, right? So when we get 2 numbers, we're really looking at the place where they meet together.
Okay, so we're going to start with A. Point A, we're going to do capital A.
-6.
I'm going to start with 3, too, but we'll use that one in just a moment. I wanted to start with some positives, sorry. 3, 2. So which one of those numbers is the x? 3. And then the 2 is my y. So if you want to color them in with your x, my x was orange. My y is pink. You match yours with yours. So there's a couple ways to do this. One way you can do this is locate the 3 on the orange axis or on the x-axis. So if I look on my x-axis, I'm going to find where is that positive 3. Oh, it's right there. But then I'm going to find on my pink axis, my y-axis, where is 2. And here's the 2. And then I can follow those lines and see where do they meet up. Where do those lines intersect? The 3 is here. The 2 is here. Locate them. And then follow them to see where do they intersect. Where do they touch? And it would be right here. So at this point, the x is 3. And that y is 2. Okay, that's one way to do it. I personally do not like to do it that way. I like to think of it as directions, like you're telling someone to move in those directions. So from the origin, if I have a positive 3, which way am I going to move? Right 3, and then the 2 tells me to go up 2. So I personally would have started from the origin, and I would have gone 1, 2, 3. And then from that point, I would go up 1, 2. And now I've done both the directions, so then I can make the point there. Okay? Either way is fine. If you want to find the 3, find the 2, meet them up. Or you can go 3 right, 2 up. Both are going to end up in the same place. The reason why I like to do the jumps is because it's just easier when we get to the 6. Sometimes when you're trying to match them up, it's hard to keep track of the lines. However, sometimes the jumps don't work if we're not counting by ones. So you got to kind of just look and see what we're dealing with. All right, B. What was yours, Dante? -6, 4. -6, 4. You're going to plot that point B. -6, 4. So again, if it helps you, label X, Y. Today on your practice work, it's going to be on paper. If you want to use highlighters, use highlighters. I like to use highlighters, and it reminds me this -6 is on this orange, and that this Y is going to be on the pink. Okay, if we're thinking about directions, if I start on my origin, what does this -6 tell me to do? Good, go left 6. After I go left 6, what am I going to do next? Go up 4. Once I've done both of those things, I make a point. So from my origin, I'm going to go left 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Not making a point yet because I have to put them together. So now I go up 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's my B. So I'm going to put B there. That way, if I'm telling you to look at a point, you know which point we're looking at. Okay, the other way we could have done this is find -6 on the orange. Here's -6. Find 4 on the pink, on the Y. And then meet them up where they cross is B. All right, we have 2 more points we're going to do. Next one we have C. C is going to be 0, -5. Zero, -5. Okay, I didn't space this one out as much, so if you want to sneak in that little X, a little Y, write them really small if you'd like to. I wrote them really small. Sorry. X, Y. So my X is 0. Is 0 to the left or to the right? It's nowhere. It's just saying stay in the middle. And then what does this negative 5 tell us to do? How do I know that it's going down and not to the left? Yeah, but the left is negatives. Good, it's the y. The y tells us to go down. That's where that color coding might be helpful. That negative 5 is on the y. It's telling us to go down. So if I start at my origin, am I going to move left or right? Nope. We stay at that origin, and then we just move down 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, last one. This time we're going to put the point on the graph first. So watch really carefully. Try and get the point right where I put the point. We're going to put the point right here. Let's try and find that point. We're going to call that point K. So for point K, we need to find those ordered pairs. What are those numbers that go with that? Okay. Which one am I going to start with, the x or the y? The x. So remember, I want to think my x, y. Okay. So my x is that orange. My y is the pink. So if I follow that point up to the orange, what is it? 2. So my x is 2. And then I can go to that point again. Either I can count how many down it is, or I can just slide over to that y-axis and see what's that number that it goes with. -3. Okay, a good way to double check is see your directions. 2 means I would go right 2, and -3 tells me to go down 3. So if I start from my origin, is that where I end up? Right 2, down 3. Yep, that's